Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 12. My name is Jay Oza, and I'm the host of this show. And today I have Julie Finkelstein, who is a mentor for the Introduction to Public Speaking course. And I'm based out of Hazlet, New Jersey, and I kind of do three things. One is I have a consulting company called Tool Group, where I help startup and small companies drive sales, to put it simply. The second thing that I'm working on right now is trying to get a first book done, which has been turning out to be a real difficult thing. And the book is going to be actually on public speaking. And one of the topic that I'm going to talk about is going to be included in the book. And I would like to get some feedback from Julie and others who are watching this or view it later. And the third thing, obviously, is we do this show weekly, and it does take up quite a bit of time. So I enjoy doing this show because I think I'm learning a lot, and it's an opportunity for me to teach. And also today I'm sharing one of my speeches that I had done for Introduction to Public Speaking from Coursera. And the last thing that I like about this show is that it's a support environment where we support other people in a no risk environment, essentially, where we can give them feedback and where the stakes are non-existent. So I think it's a good opportunity for people to come on the show, discuss different topics, and also to give and receive feedback. Both of those are very important. So today's show, we have three segments. The first segment, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about this topic that I've been thinking about, which I've kind of taken from marketing, and I'm calling it the four moments of a speech. And I'm going to explain that in more detail when I do the segment. The second segment is this is where we do a peer review. And today, the speech that we're going to review is going to be one of my speech that I had recorded more than a year ago, and I'd like to get some feedback. But it's more than a feedback. We want to use this as a way to teach others, to see if there's anything that could be done better if somebody else had to give a similar type of speech. And the third segment is going to be facilitated by Julie Finkelstein. And this is a strong interest of hers about mindfulness. And this is an excellent talk that's given by one of the early employees of Google. His name is Chade-Meng, I believe. I may not be pronouncing his name correctly. Maybe Julie can correct us later. And he's known as Google's Jolly Good Fellow. And what he tries to do is he tries to bring about how you can find that inner peace so that you could be both successful in your personal life and outside your personal life, at work, etc. And we'll go into that discussion. Julie's going to facilitate it. And this is a strong interest of her. So we'll get some unique perspective from her because she actually teaches this to other people. In fact, she did one of her speeches on that. So I'm really looking forward to that. So at this point, I will have Julie introduce herself, and then we'll get started with segment one. Julie?
Thanks, Jay. I have to learn how to synchronize your speech to my unmuting. Yes, my name is Julie Finkelstein, and one of the things I like to say is I lived through 1,000 years of technology. I started out in this village where there were no electricity and cows for power. And I ended up with a career in computer systems design, doing leading edge work of relational databases and real-time mission-critical systems and informational data warehouse systems. Today, I'm also a mentor with Jay, and I really appreciate Jay's work with this program. So I'm a mentor, a fellow student, and I'm a regular participant in Jay's show. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jay.
Okay, Julie, thank you very much. I'm going to take a brief pause so that when I separate this segment out, I can edit it nicely. So I'm going to take a 2-second pause, and then we'll get started, okay? Okay, hi, this is Jay Oza. Welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 12. And this is segment number 1. And in this segment that I've titled it, calling it the 4 moments of speech, I want to discuss a concept that is, I think it's important, and it's a unique perspective of looking at a speech. The one thing I should say is that this is not a concept that you haven't heard of. It's something that I've adopted from marketing. In marketing, you have probably heard something called moment of truth. And there are 4 moments of truth now, right? This is the moment of truth idea comes from Procter and Gamble. And when they first coined this term moment of truth, they called it the first moment of truth and the second moment of truth. And what that really means is that in the old days before the internet, when you actually went into a store and you saw a product on the shelf, whether it's a television or uh, some kind of electronic device, lawnmower, whatever, when you go into a store and you see it and you're like, wow, that looks like a terrific product, I would like to go home and try it. So that first moment is how that experience you feel when you first see it, the way it's presented, whether it's going to Nordstrom or any retailer or anything. The first sight that you have that product, you're like, wow, I want that product. That's the first moment of truth. So that's a marketing. That's why companies spend so much money making sure that their product is really well presented, and it creates that feeling so that you would want to buy it, purchase it. Then the second moment of truth is when you take it home and actually use it. And now you're saying, wow, this is really living up to that experience or the way I felt when I first saw the product. In a way, it's no different from when you see, let's say when you're young and you see a girl or a boy and you're saying, wow, I'd like to go and date this person. And then when you date them, you say like, you know what? That person really lived up to my expectation. So it's not that different when it comes to a product. Not saying that, dating a girl is like, having experiencing a product, but if you get the idea, I'm just stretching the analogy a little bit here. So that becomes the second moment of truth. But now with the internet, what has happened is that there are 2 other moments of truth that the marketers have also realized exist. And this one is coined by Google, called the 0 moment of truth. And the 0 moment of truth occurs before you actually even see the product. It's like, let's say, for example, when Julie gave a speech on meditation, suddenly I now got the stimulus there. Wow, there's something about meditation that I need to know. And immediately I can go onto internet or social media and do a search, let's say Google on meditation, and I get more information. So what I'm doing is before I even go to a meditation class or even experience that or go to the class and get that first moment of truth, I'm already at that 0 moment where I'm getting to know a lot about a particular experience before I actually even experience it. So similarly, if we wanted to buy a television, let's say from Vizio or Samsung or anything, you're not necessarily first moment of truth is to just go and see that in a store. The first thing you're going to do is that 0 moment where you're going to go on internet and do all kinds of research, look at all the reviews, ratings, etc. That becomes the 0. So the 0 moment of truth is very important today in the internet age that we live in. Then and this was coined by Google, obviously, because of that's where people will go initially to do the search. But now today, that could be just about anything. Then there's a last moment of truth, which some people call it the 3rd moment of truth. But I like to go by what Brian Solis from Altimeter Group calls it, the ultimate moment of truth. And the ultimate moment of truth is also very important. What this means is that, let's say I purchase a phone, which is, let's say, an iPhone. So in the beginning, I do all sorts of research. Then I go into an Apple store and I see it, and I'm like, wow, I got to have it. Then I take it home and I order it, let's say, and I get it, and I open it out of the box. And now I start using it. And it's really, I have a real positive experience of this product. Like, I can do so much. I can take pictures, I can listen to music, I can take videos. Oh, it's amazing. I love it. And because of that experience that I'm feeling, I'm now ready to share it with others. I may show it to my friend Julie, I may show it to Somyan, I may show it to Latesh, I may write about it, I may even do a review about it, I'll give it a rating. So my ultimate moment of truth is now going to become somebody's zero moment of truth, if that makes sense. Because of all the information that I've shared based on my experience, somebody's going to see that and say, hey, wow, let's see, this guy Jay really writes good things about this product. Maybe I should go and take a look at it in an Apple store. So that person's journey is now starting from zero to first to second. And at some point, that person may end up feeling the same way that I felt. And then his ultimate moment of truth will become somebody else's zero moment of truth. So that's the marketing concept. So let me just ask Julie if she has any comment on this concept. Did I explain it clearly? Because before I move into the moment of speech, because it's going to be very similar, but I just want to make sure that people understand the moment of truth before I move into the moment of speech. So Julie, do you have any questions or comment on what I just said?
Hi, Jay. Yeah, no, I really appreciate what you're saying. I think it really, I'm eager to hear what you say as to translate from marketing to communication. So I quite go. So the first one is starting with zero is when somehow you have interest in this topic or product before you even go and see the actual product, you research it. So the first zero moment is to do the research. And then the first moment is when you look at the product, how you feel about it. And the marketing experience is like, wow, I want it. And then the second moment of truth is taking it home and using it. And the ultimate moment of truth is that you're so excited about this product that you're willing to, either good or bad, you're willing to go on public, and that becomes someone else's moment of truth. So I think this is a really great step-by-step process of how to experience, how people experience, and I'm going to be thinking about how I can take my training and work through that, but I'm ready to hear what you say about how, as it relates to public speaking and speeches and communication in general. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's, I think you basically nailed it on exactly what I was saying. The only thing I'll add to it is that let's hope it's a positive experience. Because if it's a negative experience, then other people's zero moment stops right there. So if I say that, oh, that phone was really bad, then your zero moment may end right there, and you may never get to that first moment. So I just want to be careful that in this, I'm assuming that the experience is positive, right? Because if you are giving something a bad review, then somebody may look at that review or the rating and saying that, this product is not good based on it's pretty comprehensive. This guy's given me pretty good details. Sometimes you see that with hotels and stuff, and then that's it. You're never going to go beyond the zero if that's the case. But if it's a positive, then it could start your journey. So, okay. So I think you got that. So that's marketing. So what I have done is I've said, when it comes to public speaking, it's essentially not that different. So in the course that Julie and I mentor is called Introduction to Public Speaking from Coursera. Now, when you look at the speech there in that course, that speech is essentially an academic exercise. That most of those speeches that people are recording are never going to be given in a public. And if the speech is entirely by itself, it isn't going to be that effective. For a speech to be effective, there are other parts that also come into play, just like marketing. Speech, in a way, is a product, right? It's a product that could be monetized, or it could ideas could be spread either directly or indirectly. So you have to view the speech as a product. So the 4 moments of speech it works out like this. So the zero moment of speech would be, so I'll use Julie as an example, since she's a practitioner of meditation, and she also gives speeches on meditation. If I'm going to come and attend your speech, Julie, on meditation, I want to go to the website that you have created, whatever it's called, Meditation Here, Now, Forever, whatever that your title is of your meditation practice. And I want to learn more about it. I want to know who you are, what's your background, why should I even care, or why should I come listen to your speech out of many that's out there? What kind of body of work do you have there? So what I'm doing is, and also see what others have to say. What kind of testimonials do you have regarding your ability to teach, the concept? Do you have anything uniqueness, the unique thing that you're bringing to the table here on meditation, the way you teach, the way you clearly explain the meditation, how effective you are? All these things are going to be very important if I'm going to drag my butt and come listen to you giving a speech at, let's say, Madison Square Garden, for example, right? I mean, I need to know more about it. I'm going to spend some big bucks to come listen to you. I want to know I'm going to have a good experience. But the zero moment is already getting me to know a lot about you, so that I, at that point, have certain expectation. And I would say on a conversion spectrum, I'm moving up the conversion spectrum. I may be 50% sold, or it could be that some of them could be 100% sold, saying, hey, I just love watching Julie give a speech, even though I know exactly what she's going to say. But the way she says it is the part that I'm excited to see, how she's going to explain, what kind of examples she's going to give. They're coming to see a performance, and that's what's going to inspire them to keep coming back over and over and over again, right? So that zero moment is a very important. That's what gets people to come. Today, everybody that's going to give a speech, you have to get them to go to some website somewhere, whether it's your own website, whether it's your Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, Google+. They have to know something about you, your speech, your body of work, so that they're not coming in totally cold when they come to see you speaking. Okay, so that's the zero moment. Then when they come, the first, the zero moment could also be, for some people, they may not know anything about you. So that could be as simple as right after you introduced, that first 7 seconds where you haven't even said a single word, how do you actually appear to them? Because they're making quick judgments, right? This is not something they can control. Your mind automatically takes over. And some of the stuff that I'm talking about kind of dovetails very nicely to what's going to follow in segment 3, when Julie's going to facilitate this talk on mindfulness for the Chade-Meng 10. So your mind is already taking over, and you're making that snap judgment in that first 7 seconds. So in that first 7 segment, when Julie comes on the stage, when she's introduced, let's say I don't even know who Julie is. So my initial introduction to Julie will be that zero moment when she's introduced and she's coming on the stage. If I don't feel like she's really got her act together, or she commands that respect or that authority, that leadership, then I may start tuning out even before she even had a chance to say anything like hello or anything. So that zero moment, it actually starts from T minus whatever, a week, T minus 1 week, T minus 1 day. And in this case, it would be T minus 7 seconds, right? So that until that first word is uttered, you're in that zero moment of speech. And that zero moment is very critical to your success. And a lot of people don't understand that. And their speeches are already doomed from beginning, because people are just not going to be that familiar. And in a speech, it's very hard to process information when you are giving so much information in a way that people are not going to be able to process it. You want them to come there fairly, somewhat knowledgeable on what you're going to say. And they're coming primarily because they want to see you able to perform that speech, if you get what I mean. Like when you go see Shakespeare, most of the people have read Shakespeare's plays, but you're going there because you want to see how this person is going to interpret that play, that tragedy or that comedy. And that's why people keep going to Shakespeare's play, if I can use that analogy. Okay, so that's a zero moment of speech. The first moment of speech actually is the first 30 seconds. How you introduce yourself in that first 30 seconds, people are going to make decisions quickly, whether this is going to be worthwhile for them or not. You don't have that much time. You got to nail it in that 30 seconds or at most a minute, but that's it. You're not going to get more time than that. And again, there are some people that are coming to see you. Like, for example, if I'm going to see Julie, I'm pretty sold on Julie. I know her. So for me, I'm more interested in just seeing Julie. So you're going to get those loyalists out there. But again, you have to expect that people are loyal, but you still have to perform, because loyalty is it can fluctuate. You can be loyal one day, but then you say, I didn't really get much out of it. I wasted my time. So you have to go with when you're giving a speech, you're going to have to over promise and over deliver, because there are other people that they could go to. They've taken their time. So you have to really make sure that your speech is going to live up to that expectation. If it's not, then you may start losing some of the people that are really loyal to you, who took the time to come to you, who took the time to go to your website, get more information, but then they did not have that positive experience. They were disappointed. As far as the speech is concerned, you do not want your speech to become too complicated. You want to it should have content, but there should have to be an entertainment part of it in there, and there should be some inspirational. You should be able to inspire these people so they can take some action. So if you have that, now I'm not going to go into what makes the speech that contains all the three components. I think we can do that when we look at the Chade-Meng 10 speech. Whether does it have content, does it have entertainment value, and does it have inspirational value? If you got all three of them, then people most likely are going to take some kind of an action, where it could be simple as spreading the message, or doing it, or maybe purchasing the book, and continue to get more information about you and the work that you're doing. So right after you give a speech, they have to feel like, wow, this is the feeling you want them to have right after you give a speech. Wow, that was interesting. Wow, that was entertaining. And you know what? I'm so inspired that I'm going to do more research. I got what I wanted. This was a very positive experience. And it has to last so that afterwards I'm going around telling other people, just like what Julie's doing with the Chade-Meng 10 speech. She's so impressed with it that she all wanted us to know about it. That's a UMOS right there. What she's doing there with the recommending the speech is a UMOS. She wants us to know about it. So it becomes, we're starting off our zero moment of speech, zero moment right there, where we're getting to know more about Chade-Meng 10. And then once we get to know more about him, maybe see him live at whether he's in New York or in California or some other conference or somewhere, and then write about it and and if we are inspired, we want other people to also know more about him so that they can also get inspired by that. So that's roughly the 4 moments of speech, that you cannot give a speech without thinking about this. Otherwise, your speech may just become nothing but an academic exercise. A speech has to be viewed with the prism of having these 4 moments, that people have to experience these 4 moments if your speech is going to be successful. So I'll pass it over to Julie now to get her comments.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Yeah, that was very inspiring in a sense, because I think your idea that the speech is a product and that we want to use it to do something with our lives. Because to me, yeah, every time I make a speech, it's a tremendous amount of investment of my time, my attention, and my energy. So to look at it in terms of the moment is very helpful to me. I really liked it when you said the first 7 seconds was the zero moment, and that is really not conscious or deliberate. People form that opinion whether before they even realize it. So then out of that thing, before you even speak, your body language, your attitude, the introduction that was given by someone for you, all helps to frame that experience. And I like all the moments. I thought that was really, really clear in terms of the the speech itself, and I like your timing. I think you started at 10:12, and it's now like 10:30. There was some time segment, so your speech was about 15 minutes long, and I think that's a good time. That's a good segment of time to convey an idea. And finally, you always say that um, by you want the audience to feel like they are smarter by the time they leave this the speech, and I think I have that has happened, and I think you can take this speech and increase the knowledge of everybody. And in fact, if you want to make it longer, you could have segments, you know, 5, 10, 9, say 9, 15-minute each segment, one for the overview, one for each segment, and then one for application, and you will have an hour-long product. And but yet people can still just take a little slice of it. You know, we only have micro moments in our lives, so that is kind of like a plug and play, or a modular approach in how you can perhaps take the next step with the speech. So I don't know if you're looking for that or not. It came up.
Yeah,
So
no, no, no. That's a very good constructive feedback there. The one thing that I didn't do, and I think we don't have time. In fact, we need to kind of wrap this up soon so we can move into the next segment. Is that I didn't go into any examples here because I could spend a lot of time going into examples to explain this. And one of the examples that I've come up with that I'm writing about is an example of two speeches where you look at their ZMOS, the FMOS, the SMOS, and the UMOS. And the first speech I look at is the State of the Union speech, which has a very high ZMOS. Then it has a very high FMOS. But the problem with that speech is it starts losing its strength right from the SMOS, and then the UMOS is practically zero. Nobody remembers anything after that speech is given, what the president said the previous night. So that there's an example of a speech that's probably the most famous speech that's given every year. But from the 4 moments of speech, it hits high on the first one, the ZMOS, the second one, the FMOS, but then SMOS maybe, because there's so much contained in that speech. It's got this thing, that thing, that thing. It's like a salad. It's got everything in it. And then at the end, the UMOS, nobody says that, nobody sends out an email saying, hey, by the way, you got to go and check out that Obama speech on the State of the Union. I don't think I've ever received anybody sending me that. So it has a very little UMOS. And in contrast, when you look at like Donald Trump, for example, when he was about to announce his presidential bid, there was so much interest. People were like, oh, is he going to announce it? Is he going to really run? Is he going to drop out, or is he going to another one of those head fake? So there was so much anticipation built with that ZMOS for his speech. And then when you look at it, as soon as he gets on the stage, he immediately starts talking about like, hey, we got like thousands of people. So he's creating that atmosphere like there are so many people that are already following him, which may not have been because those people, most of them were paid, but it doesn't matter. He immediately captured people's attention. And then the UMOS of his speech was extremely high because people suddenly started talking about like, oh, he's saying these things about the illegal immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. So there is an example of a 4 moments of speech where the 0 moment was high, the FMOS was very high, the SMOS was very high, and the UMOS, as you can see now, that he's at the top of the poll for the GOP race. So there's an example of how the UMOS is so high that just people keep getting to know more and more about him. And I hear tonight he's going to be speaking in Alabama where they're expecting close to 40,000 people attending. So just to compare and contrast these two speeches, when you look at it, the 4 moments of speech, the State of the Union has a lot of hype, but then nothing happens. Whereas Donald Trump's speech had a lot of hype and a lot of things did happen afterwards. So anyway, those are the 2 examples that I was I could go into more detail on how that works.
Great.
Okay, so at this point, I'll take a brief pause and then we'll get to segment number 2, okay?
Okay.
Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 12. And we're now moving to segment number 2. And in this segment, Julie Finkelstein is going to facilitate a speech that I had recorded more than a year ago for this course called Introduction to Public Speaking. And I'm going to use the speech hopefully to learn what I could do better, but also to use the speech as a way to teach others on what are some of the things that they can learn from the speech as far as technique is concerned, as far as delivery, body language, gestures, etc. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Julie so she can facilitate the session.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you for, again, generously sharing your one of your public speeches with us. And having done a few, I know how difficult it is to do even one, and you're so prolific. So today, you want to talk about how to hire salespeople. And I'd like you to perhaps take up a couple minutes to introduce the speech to us, and then I will come back and ask you a few other questions.
Okay, Julie, thanks a lot. So let me just give you a little background. So, as I said, this was for a course, but this is also relevant to what I do. And one of the things that I do is I help small companies with sales. And in that speech, as you can see right from the beginning, what I point out is that my observation with small companies and the reason why many of them have difficulties has nothing to do with their product necessarily or their people. A lot of times they just simply don't understand the sales process. And one of the biggest decision that they have to make is who is that person that's going to be the salesperson. What I found is that tech companies, the CEO is usually not the best salesperson. CEO is a person who's very technically bright, very innovative, aggressive in starting a company, but then they tend to have that thing called halo effect, that just because I am technically smart, I've took the initiative to start a company, that suddenly that'll also mean that I can sell, and they can't. And I've seen many of these companies struggle, and they eventually get into the zombie state, and then they eventually die, right? And the thing is that hiring a salesperson is not that easy. People tend to think like, oh, well, he looks like a salesperson, he talks like a salesperson, he must be a salesperson. And hiring salespeople for a startup is even more difficult because a lot of sales jobs that I've seen in big companies, I used to work at Oracle and a company like SunGard, they are not, they're more like, I don't want to call this in a derogatory manner, they're more like a factory job in a sense, because a lot of the work has already been done for you. And you're just there to kind of move the process along. There isn't that evangelism that is often required for startup sales, because in startup sales, you really have to basically sell yourself. I always tell them that if you're trying to sell in a startup, and any sales company, but especially for startup, if they're not willing to hire you, then they're not going to buy from you either. Because the first thing that you're really selling is yourself. The second thing you're selling is the company. And the third thing you're selling is the product. So if they're not ready to hire you, saying, hey, this guy brings something that I really like about him, I just like talking to him because he's bringing so much insight that can help me, then you can obviously introduce your company, and then you can introduce the product. And at that point, the sale becomes kind of the natural part of the process. So in this speech, what I talk about is that, okay, so how do you actually hire a salesperson? So I broke down the sales process, typically what would happen in a typical sales process, 7 different steps that I've identified. And I said, why not use those 7 steps when you're hiring a salesperson? Because if the salesperson is looking for a job, technically he is the product, and he should be able to sell himself like he's a product. Because if he cannot sell himself like a product, then what kind of confidence would you have in him able to sell your product to somebody else, if that makes any sense? So that's what the speech is about. And I basically go through all the 7 steps. And I Originally, I thought this was an informative speech, but it might be a persuasive speech. But like I said, I don't believe there are any speeches that are informative. But I'm not sure whether I use many of the techniques. I think in the beginning, I start out the speech a little slow. So I'd like to get some feedback on it. Like, does that capture people's attention right from the beginning? Or it needed a little bit more energy? So that might be a feedback. When I looked at it, I thought it needed a little bit more energy in the beginning. My opening may not capture somebody's attention to saying, hey, I want to really know about it. Maybe the 7 steps comes a little bit too late. So those are some of the decisions that I made. But at the end, that's my decision. At the end, I like to know how other people received it. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Julie and get her feedback on what she thought when she watched the speech. And then if she has any specific questions that she would want me to answer.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Yeah, I watched this speech and first of all, I want to say thank you again. I became smarter after I learned hear the speech, and I actually co-founded 2 consulting companies with my husband. One was called Links Technology, and that one we had 3 or 4 partners, and the other one was just my husband and I, and some subcontractors, and that was performance computing. And all I can say is, had I known about the importance of sales, my company would probably still be active now. I think we were a great technical company. We created some great products, but we didn't know how to leverage that. So from my own experience, then I can say for sure that I really enjoy your clear speaking style. You know, I think you are a natural teacher and was very organized. And I think you did link the evidence to the claim. And I want to encourage you to continue to teach us through this method, because it's very prolific and it's scalable, right? Because these speeches you can go on YouTube and everybody can access them, and who knows, it might go viral. In terms of your question, you said a little slow. This is what I wrote down, is that if you look at the speech that's following, Chade-Meng did not introduce himself in the speech. Okay, he probably had an official introductor person who really made him sound exciting, and everybody knows who he is because it's a well-known organization and he was an invited speaker. I think that you could generate that kind of excitement by introducing yourself. Hi, I'm Jay. I used to sell for businesses in major leading-edge technology companies, Oracle, Sangar, and you might know Oracle because it's the biggest database company in the world now. In my doing this, I had many challenges and many successes. One of the key successes I want to share with you is how to hire salespeople to make your company successful, because sales is the keystone to success. You never have a successful company without successful salespeople. So that to me is like giving yourself credibility, underscoring the critical nature of sales and how you have experienced it yourself, and that you can bring that forth. So I agree.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that what I should have done in the beginning is to establish that credibility, so that people immediately saying, "Wow, this guy has some experience based on working at some of these companies. So now I want to know more from what he has learned from his experience."
Yeah, that one he sold. Secondly, he was successful at leading edge companies in the world. And that you've not only survived, you succeeded, you flourished, and now you're a successful consultant yourself, and that you want to share this. The second thing, I think that in the beginning, like I said before, you're very good at translating ideas because you're so methodical. But in the beginning, that clarity is not necessary, right? In the beginning, what you want is, like you said, that wow experience that's unconscious, taking your speech, applying here, that zero moment is maybe I know you had your back pain, so that could be part of it. But my question is, I didn't get the sense that you were excited about this. I got the sense that this is really important, that you want me to know it, but it didn't give you any pleasure. You know, you weren't happy, you weren't excited, it wasn't fun. I didn't get those kind of feelings because, hey man, I like to play. Life is a bitch,
It was more
So
like it came across like an academic exercise rather than a speech
exactly.
that which was a fair comment, because all these speeches that we do for the course, and again, this was recorded more than a year and a half ago,
Right,
that all these speeches in itself become an academic exercise, right? Because all we're doing is just focusing on the speech. But
right,
like one of the things that I pointed out earlier is that if this was a speech that I was going to give to a front of a live audience, then there would be a lot of other things that have to be done, so that to set up, there has to be that zero moment there. In this speech, if you just looked at it, there was no zero moment. The zero moment was the speech itself. So afterwards, some of the feedback you're giving me are generally right, that I didn't see that you were having that fun giving that speech. And you're right that that
yes.
sense of like you have to like enjoy what you're doing. And what you're saying is that in this speech you didn't seem to get that.
Right. Because there isn't that zero moment for you, you got to do it in that first moment.
Okay, that's a fair comment.
Okay. So you need to use your body language to convey that zero moment. If you came up and say, just since we're talking about body languages, if you come on and say, hey guys, I have this great idea, and it's all about being successful in your sales, and
Hmm.
I've done it 30 years, and now I want to share that with you.
Hmm.
That's a different kind of physiological experience, right?
It should have been
Subconscious
more
experience.
energy there. Okay.
Yeah. And
Because
then
I mean, part of sales is growth, and if you're not excited about selling something,
excited, that's a
why
great
would
word.
the customer feel like I said one thing in the beginning is that if you're when you're in a startup sale, you're an evangelist, and the first thing they're looking at is you,
Right,
and you are the product, right? Before they even get to see
exactly,
the product. And if the product doesn't create that enthusiasm, that excitement, then they may never want to know what the real product that you're really.
exactly,
Okay, that's good.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what I'm saying is there's like credibility,
Hmm.
excitement,
Hmm.
and then being able to share, right? You want to get all those things out. And so I did get your credibility because of the nature of your uh, speech, but I didn't get it in the first 7 seconds
Okay.
or even the first minute, right?
Right. Right.
So
So this is an example of a speech where the zero moment had to needed work. And
this
again,
this
this was something that I had done before knowing all these things. So
right,
just
right.
so this is something where this would be an example of a speech where the zero moment isn't compelling.
Right. And
And
I'm learning the same thing from you,
yeah,
right?
right,
Because
right,
when you
right.
give me speech.
Yeah, and that's why I
So,
included this, because this was something that I'd recorded. If I had to do it again, then I had to follow what I'm saying here with the zero moment, the first moment, the second moment, and then the ultimate moment, right?
yeah.
And in this case, what you're saying is that that first 30 seconds had to show that excitement, and then that excitement had to continue throughout the entire speech, so that at the end you're saying, "Wow, I got
I'm saying that you also need to establish credibility because
yeah,
no one's introducing you. Like if I was there, I could say, I've known Jane for so many years, and throughout his life, I saw him progress from a newbie in sales to like a manager of sales, and now he has his own consulting company. And in these moments, he's going to share some really critical knowledge with you. So I could do that for you. Since nobody's introducing you, you got to do that for yourself.
okay,
Okay. And
that's it."
the other point is connection, right? So
Hmm.
so it's credibility, credentials, and connection. So even if I know a lot and I'm credible, if it comes out like I don't care about you, you won't enjoy the speech as much. So let's just call it the 3 C's, okay? Um,
So that's credibility, connection, and
credentials,
yeah, okay.
uh, Credentials, yeah, credibility and connections. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't write down credentials. So credentials matter, right? Uh, it's part of building credibility, but credibility comes from other stuff. So if you have an MBA from Harvard, for example, if you were the president of a speech organization or a sales organization, those
Right.
are credentials, they're formal recognitions of achievement. Um, since that's your major question, I'll just say a couple more things and then and I have one more question for you. Um, I think um, it would be really good if you take one example. For example, you have a client who did not do well, what the sales were. After you help them do this, how
Mm-hmm.
well did the sales did? And in each step, use some kind of specific example. Finally, I think I will frame this in a different way because what you're really emphasizing is not so much salespeople. I didn't get that message. When you say it in the introduction, I get it. But to me, it's most like how to make the 7 steps your uh,
Best,
company
best
culture of
practice. Yeah.
sales.
Mm-hmm.
And then in your introduction, you say, I actually have a host of programs related to the 7 steps. I have a check sheet that you can use to hire individuals. And I will use that today to talk about these examples. In addition, I have a training program to help the salespeople step up to the skills. Because one of the things, having worked in a smaller company, I cannot afford to hire the most experienced people. I just can't compete with IBM or
Mm-hmm.
Oracle. However, I can transfer this special knowledge and make them more successful. So a company such as yourself, you could have a program on how to train salespeople in these 7 steps of selling. In addition, you can have another program, how to endeavor the whole company to speak the whole service in the 7 step process of customer service, in executive language, in resource allocation. You know, so you instead of having a speech, you have a host of products, and then all those products relates to this whole thing. The sales process makes your company survive and thrive.
Yeah, so that's a good point, and I don't know whether this came through in that speech. Oh, and I think you're raising an important point here, which may not have come through in the speech. So what I was really trying to do in that speech was saying that if you're a startup, you do not have. I think I said that in the beginning that a big companies can, if they don't hire a salesperson or if it doesn't work out, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt that much. But for a startup, it could be devastating if you
Yes,
hire a salesperson and it doesn't work out because of all the opportunities you lose, and you could pretty much be out of business if that
right.
salesperson is not, and it's not easy to go and find. So what I was saying in that speech was that those 7 steps, if that's how you're interviewing it, and if that person is able to make it to the last one and does fine, then you know that that person has the basics on how to be a good salesperson and how to navigate through a sales process. That's what I was trying to get to. That the interview itself is the sales process that he would be using when he's trying to sell your product. So I'm saying if he cannot sell himself as a product, then why would you feel that that person can sell your product to a future, potential customers?
I have to admit, I didn't listen to that speech multiple times. I think I heard it once or twice. I did not get that, but that's a very powerful point. And I think I did hear when you were introducing the speech.
Right.
In the interest of time, I will be happy to,
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
explore the.
You can send me more information. Yeah. So I
Okay.
will. I will definitely appreciate your comment, and thanks a lot. That gave me some very good things to work on in future speeches. So I want to thank you for your feedback. And at this point, I think
I have one more quick question for you, and I
yeah.
think this underscores this class and practice. I have seen a lot of improvement since this speech and how you are presenting yourself now. I was wondering if you would like to highlight a couple just in a minute. Like how does taking the class and now evolving using this speech has made you a better presenter?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I keep emphasizing is that in order to become a good speaker, and I don't want to say that I think it's a work in progress, right? Because the audience is different, and there's so much work that you have to do. A speech that works in one setting is not going to work in another setting, because the audience is going to be different, their knowledge is going to be different, and so let's say I speak to you and you like my speech, and you're correct. If I go and give the same speech to somebody else and they don't like it, they're also correct. So the question is not whether my speech was good or bad. The question is that I didn't know enough about, like you, what you just pointed out is exactly the point that I'm kind of make here, is that in this type of speeches, it's very difficult because you really don't know the audience. They're sort of academic exercise, right? And an academic exercise, the speech has to be looked at in a very technical, academic manner, whether it had the right invention. But if you're giving the speech in a real audience, then the speech would have to be a lot different. So what you're saying to me in this speech is that this speech for as an academic exercise might be acceptable, but if this speech were ever given to in front of a live audience, then you had to address these points like credibility, excitement, and connection,
Oh, okay.
because those things are what's going to make that speech successful. What this recording the speech shows is that you had the framework all right. Now you have to really bring that in as a performance when you're really giving it live in front of an audience, and all of the other things that you have to do for the speech to be successful. Because at the end, the speech is only successful based on what people do afterwards. Otherwise, if they don't do anything, then what did you really do? You just made a lot of noise and that's it, right? Nothing ever happened afterwards. It was like one and done thing. So I think these are the things that I kind of keep in mind. And one of the things that I try to do is, as I tell people, is that, every PC has a video recorder. You can just record your speech and just see how you look. If you can do that much, how you come across. And one of the things that I've noticed is I have a tendency when I get excited to speak fast and use a high-pitched voice. And that sometimes is not that effective. So I need to maintain my pay. I need to slow it down, that even when I'm excited about passionate. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to use vocal variety, but occasionally when I go back and look at my speech, I somehow saying, Jay, that's not the way you want to sound, because it just makes you look like you're kind of losing control. So the thing that I want to try to get across with this kind of this doing this type of speech talk live, like I said, part of it is learning, part of it is teaching. The thing that I want to learn is that I want to maintain that, I want to have that control over my voice, so that hello, I want to have that control over my voice, so that I sound like I'm authentic and I have credibility. And then that's what I'm trying to get across from taking this type of course, and that's what I'm learning. So until Julie gets back, I'll just talk more about some of the things. So if you're watching this and you're recording a speech, you have to remember that the speech that you're recording is for this course, or for this trying to learn how to come across. But that's why you have to take risks, and you have to kind of pretend that there are people out there that are going to be listening to you. And the best thing to do is record it and then just view it yourself and see how you like it. And if you don't like it, re-record it. Keep re-recording it till you get comfortable with the speech. And I'm going to take a quick break here. So at this point, we're done with segment 2, and as soon as Julie gets on, we'll start segment 3. Oops, I have no idea what happened there. Oh, there you are.
I'm sorry. Somebody dinged me, and then something happened.
Okay, so I think we're done with segment 2. So I'm going to
Yes.
take a brief pause, and we can start segment 3. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hello, welcome back to Speech Talk Live, episode 12. My name is Jay Oza, and we're moving to segment number 3. And in this segment, we're going to review a public speech that's given by somebody famous. And today, Julie Finkelstein has shared a speech by Chade-Meng, who is known at Google. His title is a jolly good fellow. And he talks about mindfulness and how you can be at peace within yourself and at work, and how to have that mental peace. So Julie's going to facilitate this session since she knows a lot about this topic. At this point, I'll turn it over to Julie to kind of introduce the speech and tell us exactly what she likes about it, and let her then go into it in more detail. All right, Julie, take it over.
Thanks. Thanks, Jay. So yes, this speech is by this ex-Google engineer, Chade-Meng, and he is talking about this program called Search Inside Yourself, which is also a book. Now, he's an engineer, so he's kind of in the tech world, and he's dealing with this very kind of soft touch topic, and I find that very in alignment with my background and my idea of what I want to do next. So he is an ex-engineer. He was one of the first 100 hired by Google, and Google generously allows 20% of their work time to pursue their own personal pet projects, and he used that time to create this curriculum. It is actually extremely successful. It's been running in Google for the last 8 years, and he actually he's the first engineer who transferred from engineering into human resources, and he takes this program around the world. I think it's very successful because it is adopted by many organizations, and he started this program called SILY, SILYI, Search Yourself Leadership Program. I recently gave a speech in Introduction to Meditation, and I thought, hey, modeling. Let's find someone who is successful, and maybe I'm inviting Jay to maybe point out some of the differences in his speech versus mine, and so I have a way to improve, bring my speeches to the next level. We're both similar in the sense that we're both Chinese. We both speak with an accent, and we're a little bit on the nerdy side, but clearly we also have some soft skills as well. And I want to do actually exactly what he has done, which is to bring success skills and happiness skills that works both for individuals and organizations, and I hope to open source that to individuals, that individuals will have access to that, and then they'll be able to be paid handsomely by organizations to create these similar programs for their organizations. So he's definitely someone I admire and aspire to do. With this, I'm going to turn this over to Jay and talk, and maybe we'll have a little bit of a conversation on this.
Yeah, Julie, thanks a lot. And again, thank you for pointing the speech out. I think there were another speech that you had initially sent was a longer version, which I need to view it also. So I can include that. So if somebody wants to view this speech and want to get more, then they can either look at the longer speech and perhaps even purchase the book. I looked at the book is not that expensive. I think it's like $5.99 or $6.99.
Actually, it's free. If you Google for the title of that book, you can get a complete version of it for free as a PDF.
As a PDF, it's free, but as a Google Kindle, I think I had to pay something because I read all my books on Kindle.
Okay,
so I had to pay like $5.99 or $6.99, which is, look, if you get even one idea from it, it's worth it. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
I think he's an excellent speaker. I think, like you said, he has an accent, but sometimes you have to work around that because you don't want to focus on that, and that's what you have. But then you have to compensate for that, and he does that extremely well because the way he speaks is very deliberative. You know, it's not like he's getting carried away. So you can tell that this guy has given that speech many times. That was not the first time he's like giving that speech. Otherwise, he wouldn't be giving that speech. So he has a lot of, so he's a professional speaker, okay? So when we're looking at him as a professional speaker, and that model that you're saying, that's a right model for you, Julie, because that's how you want to give a speech. If you notice that he's in control right from the beginning till the end, right? He has complete control over the topic. He has complete control over his message, and he's complete control over his emotion. He himself is the message. That's the key thing, that he is talking about mindfulness. And if he is not the message, the speech falls apart pretty quickly. And that's what he's conveying, like the way calmness. Remember, he cannot get off the rails in that speech. Otherwise, people will be wondering, why would I want to listen to him if his speech is so off the, out of that balance? There was that real balance there. And he also does something very interesting. The way he starts his speech, which captures your attention with that metaphor that he uses of a horse and the rider. I think that was very effective, the way he captures your attention, that, who's in control, the horse or the you? And I thought that the way he did that was quite. One of the things that I had suggested that, Julie, that he does extremely well, which I have to go back and see whether you did that in your speech or not. Because since you're asking, this is the model that you want to use, so I'm just going to kind of compare and contrast.
Yeah, thank you.
He asks questions throughout the speech, if you noticed, to keep the audience's attention. Because if you look at this speech, it's a fairly complicated topic, okay? This is not an easy topic to understand. And his challenge in this speech is to simplify it so like the audience is thinking that I am now much smarter than the speaker. Because a lot of times, if the audience leaves with the impression that that guy was a real smart speaker, then you lost the audience. And I think the key thing there is that he does make the audience say that I am smarter by watching him give the speech. And I thought that was very effective in the way he does that. And, the three key things that he's bringing up in that speech is like how do you do it? And he's talking about attention training, self-knowledge and mastery, and creating useful mental habits. All of them are very difficult topics to really explain, and he somehow pulls it off. So as you can see, this guy was in top of his game in explaining something that's fairly complicated for people to understand, and he's able to do it in such a easy manner that you feel like, wow, I can do it too. And that was his objective, I think, to get people to say, I can do it too. And the other decision that he makes, which is his choice, and I think it works just as fine, when he at the end talks about why is he doing it, And the choice there is, does that make sense to do it at the end, or would that have made more sense to do it in the beginning? And I'm not going to nitpick on that. That's the choice that he's making there. Some people will say it might make more sense to do it right in the beginning to let, like you were saying about establishing credibility, but maybe his credibility has already been established that he doesn't need to do that in the beginning. So I think that's the choice that he's making based on knowing his audience and knowing the place that he's giving this speech at, that he doesn't need to do it. So, because if you notice at the end, he's talking about that he wants to bring world peace, and then he's explaining how he's planning to do that. And that was quite effective in that. So those are my overall comments, and I'll pass it over to you, and then we can have further discussion around this.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate you asking me about the questions. I had to go back and watch both speeches, and I really do want to integrate more of the questioning. And the other piece that I find, and he explicitly says so in many of his communications, that he wants to inject humor into this very serious topic, because he thinks without humor, the topic is almost too heavy for people to comprehend, or people would just, sweep it off because they think it's heavy. How did you like his use of humor in that speech?
Yeah, I think I like it's something in the beginning you're wondering, like, how is this how is it going to, because humor is very risky, right? Because some people will get it and some people will not. And that's why the best humor to use is about yourself, because that's safe, right? But I like the way he uses that thing about the horse and the rider. He kind of gets you in that mood, like, okay, this guy's not taking himself too seriously, even though he's talking about a serious topic. But the thing with humor is, it's a fine balance, right? Either it works or it doesn't work, and most of the time it's not going to work. And if you're going to use it right in the beginning, you really have to be confident that it's going to work. Otherwise, like, one thing that doesn't work is to tell a joke, and here he's using this humor in a way to make a larger point. So I think he was very effective in that. And then throughout the speech, he's injecting humor more as like observational humor. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't like he was cracking jokes or anything. It was more like observational. I think his humor was more about him not taking himself too seriously. Except in the beginning, the rest of it was more like observational things, like, are you getting it? Is this easy? Like that. He was more like engaging the audience in a way that made them comfortable. And I thought that's what he was so effective. And as I said, that, he's a professional speaker. This was not the first time he ever gave the speech. So he knows exactly what the audience is looking for, how to convey the message, and what they're likely to process. And he seemed like he was in complete control when he was giving that speech, as he was going. And if you notice, the speech had a tremendous balance. Everything was very equally spaced. There wasn't where one topic he just spent too much time, and then he just kind of just say, oh, by the way, there's one more thing here. It wasn't like that. I mean, he had a definite goal about attention training. I think he spends equal amount of time on that, self-knowledge and mastery. Create useful mental habits. The one thing that I think he could have done, and again, I don't know whether it was a time restriction or not, when he's talking about emotional intelligence, it cannot be learned but trained, and then he goes into this neuroplasticity. What I would have liked to know more about, and again, this is part of something that I would have to go and do some research to see whether it's in his book or not. Maybe that's something that would make me go buy a book, is that he's talking about the neuroplasticity of the brain and how it changes the structure based on doing something. Like, he gives an example of the London cabbies. What I would have liked to know was, how is that different? When you're learning something, what part of brain is that affecting versus something that you're training your brain? That part, I think, needed more development. And again, that's getting into very much a science issue there. And I don't think his speech, he wanted to really burden us with a lot of science. He didn't want to throw a lot of science at us. So he just talks about neuroplasticity and the hippocampus. But that's the part that he's saying it's trained. But then what about the part where you actually have to learn? That needs to be fleshed out, and maybe in that longer speech he may go into that in more detail. I was interested in knowing more about that, which is fine. In any speech, you're not going to give everybody 100% of what they're looking for. There are certain things that they have to go and do more work. So I got that as a challenge that, Jay, if you want to know more, then you better go and do some work and find out the difference between learning and training and how it affects your brain.
Thanks, Jay. Just for your information, there's 8 modules in YouTube. It's almost like a class, so you can go through that, and there'll be more explanations of the neuroplasticity. One final point I want to bring to this speech, and I would like your input as well, is I see a parallel here between cultivating emotional intelligence and cultivating public speaking, in the sense that, as I have always heard you say, is that public speaking is not something you can just read about and learn. You have to actually practice, because the skills of how to use voice, movement, integrating the organization, it changes. If you read a book about public speaking, that does not make you a better public speaker. You have to actually understand each of those skills, such as organization, body language, injection of humor, and that you have to practice it so it becomes skillful. So I actually think that what he talks about, that we go from skilllessness to skillfulness to mastery through practice, is that this public speaking is like that. So this course is different than many other courses, in the sense that you can't just do the videos, take the quiz, and be successful. You really need to do the practice. And so I want to underscore the importance of programs that you're developing and how it really has helped me become a better speaker. I want to just turn that over to you for that point.
Yeah, I think I have his book. I haven't read it yet. And I think some of the things that he's talking about in this speech can really help you become a better speaker, because I think what he's saying here is very important. We're going through. One thing I like about what he's saying here is that, and I think maybe this is the reason why he's so popular at companies like Google. And I think he talked about that people come from military to come listen to him. That he's tapped into something in how do you survive in this world where we are constantly inundated with all kinds of disruptions and distractions and stresses and all kinds of pressure, but we can't just abandon it and go and live like a hermit and not having to worry about any of these issues that we all deal with. And that's the part that I found at the end when he was explaining about that if he was just talking about this in a vacuum, like, hey, you have to do this, then what he was saying, that people will just say, okay, that's it, but they're not going to take any action. And what he figured out is something that he needs to tie the success and profits, and that's and at the end, how does that help the interest? Because he's basically trying to do something that's kind of difficult, right? Because he's saying that this practice of mindfulness has to lead to something that you can feel and actually it's tangible. And he's tying that to, well, let's call it capitalism in a way, success and profits, right? Profits is part of the capitalism. But success is more from, and he talks about it in there, that, if you're calm, then that is a sign of leadership that can help you get promoted. So he's looking after, he's kind of appealing to your self-interest, that these practices are going to help you, which is important, because if people don't feel like why do I care? Then they're going to just completely zone out and not pay any attention. So he's doing something very clever here. He's appealing to our self-interest that, hey, if you're just calm, then you might get promoted. But what he's not telling people is, which is, I don't know that was his plan, that all these things he's telling you is going to make you a better person. He's not saying that actually. What he's saying is that you're going to make, because you're in a work environment, maybe it's because the speech he was giving, maybe people were in a corporation, that this is going to help you become a better employee. It's going to help you with this calmness. These practices are going to help you get promoted. And through that, what he's not connecting there is that it's going to make you a much better person, even because everybody's not going to get promoted, right? That's just not going to happen. He can't make that, no matter how much everybody practices it. But this concept of meditation is now becoming very mainstream, as now a lot of the CEOs, entertainers are openly talking about it. I don't know if you've seen it. I see this CEOs from all the Wall Street is big on meditation, transcendental meditation. Not a day goes by where I see some article in Huffington Post, some CEOs talking about how meditation that he's been practicing. So they're very openly talking about it. And I think these are the kind of topics that some people feel it's personal. Like, people don't like to talk about religion, right? Like what you practice at home, whether you read the Bible, whether you read Quran or Bhagavad Gita or whatever. A lot of people think that's personal. I don't need to. This type of practices is not religious. It's very spiritual. And this Chade-Meng 10 talking about it is getting others to also talk about it and how they're benefiting. So I think what he's doing is very important for all of us, and that this kind of practices should not be viewed as like, oh, this is one of those, New Age stuff. This is not New Age stuff. This works. People are using it, and it is making them a better person and also a better employee and a better citizen of the world. And I think that was his message, and he does it very effectively in a very, very clever way, which I've never seen it before.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. I'll just underscore this with, if you Google, search inside yourself, you will find all kinds of resources. As I mentioned, a free book. And if you Google on YouTube, search inside yourself, you'll find the complete curriculum in video format, and also lots of speeches, as Jay mentioned. So thanks, Jay, for letting me do this.
Okay, Julie, thank you for sharing this speech. I thought this was a very good speech. I think everybody should look at this and learn some of the things that he is doing. It was a very well delivered speech, very well organized speech, and it's one of those speeches that that has hit a high mark that we should all try to achieve. And Chade-Meng 10 is an excellent speaker that we should all try to emulate.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just take a brief pause and then close it out, okay? Okay, so I thought this was a good, I wish, we can get more people. I'm not sure that we need more people. I think we need more good discussion. I think that's what I look for. Mm-hmm. The people part, I can't control. It's up to their schedule and their, how busy they are. But the main thing that we can control is what kind of quality of discussion that we're having. And I think today we brought in a lot of good topics to discuss and learn from. They're not perfect, but that's part of speaking. They cannot be perfect. It was good enough. And I think these speeches, there was a speech that Somyan has sent. I think that's a little too long. We'll see if he has a shorter version of it. Because I think the speech that I'd like to review, I don't want it to be too long, because then you're asking for real investment of time, right? Mm-hmm. And I want the speech to be able to convey everything in no more than 20. If it goes over, that's okay. But when it starts going over an hour, I think that's a little too long for the kind of speeches where people are going to really pay attention to. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. 20 minutes is about my maximum attention span for listening to a speech. Since we can listen potentially up to 3 speeches, that already is an hour. And if we listen it twice, that's 2 hours. So, we can easily spend 4 to 5 hours a week on this. So, yeah, I agree.
The next speech I want to think about including is the one by Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've ever seen that speech on Start With Why.
Okay, that sounds great.
The reason I think that speech is not only the way he delivers that speech and the way he has organized the speech is something that we could all learn from. That he uses 3 short stories to explain the same idea about why, how, what, right? Like you got to start with why, then the how, then the what, right? and he uses these three stories about Wright brothers, Apple, and Martin Luther King. And I thought it's very effective technique that he uses that we could all learn from.
That's great. My one more suggestion is if you want to create this segment, let's post it in the discussion forum to get feedback.
Yeah, I'm not getting any feedback. I do that. I don't get any feedback.
Oh, you do that? Okay.
I do that. Yeah, I put that Latesh's speech that he gave, and I included three, like all of the stuff. I hardly ever get any comment, except you. I don't know, really, the students are overwhelmed, or the only thing I keep seeing about over and over is everybody wants to be part of that study group. That seems to be the most popular thread.
I keep on asking when is it and where is it, and I don't get any.
Everybody wants to be on it, but I have no idea what's going on there, where is it going on, and what are they learning from it. I think what we're doing is got to be, like I said, if somebody has a question that they want to ask us, we'll talk about this next week, but let them record it and give us like why they're asking that question. So it's an opportunity for them to also practice. And if they want to come on live, then we would prefer them to come on and go into it in more detail, and then we can have a discussion around it. If they want to lead that discussion, if somebody's asking that question, because part of speaking is leadership, right?
Right.
So if you're asking that question, then you have to lead that discussion, because otherwise, why are you asking? Because speaking means that you're acting like a leader, and we want these people to get out of that shell where they start acting like leaders.
Okay, great. Okay. I agree.
All right, Julie, thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for participating today. Okay.
Okay, I'll call you Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.